Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you with us today, and we know that we have folks joining us from all over the country. The chat box should be available to you, so if you have any questions, you can ask them right there. There are ways that you can raise your hand electronically, and you can also just wave to us, and we'll do our best to acknowledge you. We're really, really excited that you're with us today. The format today is going to be a little bit different than it was last week. For those of you who were with us last week, we're going to try some different things as we experiment together, what it means to explore, what it means to learn, and what it also means to have time for reflection. And last week we heard from Mark Pincus, who really helped create this idea of a Book of Life project. And he talked a little bit about his book of life that he's been writing. And we're going to have an opportunity for some writing today. We're also going to have an opportunity for a little quiet meditation, and we're going to have an opportunity for a little study. I want to remind everybody, please, to stay muted unless you're going to speak. Great to keep your microphone muted. Otherwise, we'll start getting a lot of feedback and a lot of noise. If you have any technical challenges or difficulties, please let us know. And I see from the chat down below that someone was interested in knowing where folks are from. So I think that the chat room would be a great place for that. You can go ahead and type in where you're joining from. And you see we have folks from California and New Jersey. I know we have some folks joining us from Arizona and some other places. And if you're having any technical difficulties along the way, let us know in the chat room, and either Matthew or Sydney or I will try to respond to you. The three of us are co-hosting this, so you can direct it to any one of us, and we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. I want to begin with a blessing for two blessings, actually. One blessing just to say thanks for the gift of life and for being here, and another blessing for the learning and the growth that we're going to do together. So if you care to join me for Modeh Ani, it's a blessing that says, thank you for the gift of breath. Thank you for the gift of life. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehechazarta bi nishpati v'chemla rabba emunatecha. Thank you, God, for giving me another day. No matter how challenging this day might be, no matter how wonderful this day might be, I give thanks for the gift of this day. And we can say a blessing for study together. The last words in Hebrew, la'asok b'divrei Torah. Give thanks to God for the gift of being able to engage in Torah study, engage in learning, engage in reflection, engage in moments of silent meditation. All of these things are gifts. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Finally, just want to wish you all a Chodesh Tov, because today is the first day of the month of Nisan, which is the first month in the Jewish calendar year. It can be a little confusing the way we tell time, because we think of Rosh Hashanah, which comes in September and October, as the beginning of the year, which it is, but the first of the months is in the springtime in the Northern Hemisphere. And so it's a time of hope. We need that now, and it's a time of renewal. We need that now as well. So I hope that this month will be a month of renewal, and a month of a new beginning for all of us. It's a pleasure to turn things over to Sydney Mintz in San Francisco, and she's going to help us through a meditation to continue our journey this morning. Sydney is, I think, trying to unmute herself there. Sid, if you can unmute yourself. I wonder why we can't do that. Okay, Sid, I think you should be good to go. Well, no, every time I...
There we go. Okay.
There she goes.
Okay, I'm here.
Go ahead, Sid.
Okay, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here with you again. And I wanted to just, if it's your first time meditating, or you have been meditating for a long time, I want to just ask you to have patience in these moments with the technology, but also with yourself. And I always like to start meditation, whether it's a Jewish or non-Jewish group or mixed group, by saying, don't forget that there's an Om in Shalom. And that we've been a people who have meditated for literally thousands of years since our ancestors went into the wilderness. The Kabbalists, the Talmudic scholars talked about how the Talmudic rabbis used to meditate before and after their tefillah, before and after their davening, their prayers. And so with this sense of almost timelessness that we're in, many people have reflected back to us feeling out of control about time. Some days pass and we don't know what day it is. And they are going by so slowly, and other days it's time to go to sleep and we can't believe that that was 24 hours that passed. So part of meditation is to slow your own breathing down, slow yourself down as you get into a sense of introspection. So what I'd like everybody to do right now is to find a comfortable seat wherever you are, whatever position you're in. If you're on a chair, if you feel like you want to get on the floor, take off your shoes. As you know from the story of Moses in the burning bush, the moment that he was commanded to take off his shoes was when he was in a holy place. And if we think about ourselves, our own bodies, and the time and the space that we're in as a holy place, we can slow down. We can focus on our breathing. So I'm going to ask everyone to find that comfortable position and start first by just focusing on your own breath, feeling the breath in and out of your nostrils very, very slowly. And as you are now focused wherever you are on the breath, if you feel comfortable at this moment to close your eyes, please do that. You're going to be calming your mind and relaxing your body by focusing on your breath. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. And whatever you experience during this meditation is the right thing for you. Don't try to make anything happen, just observe what's going on. Sitting wherever you are, I want you to, with your eyes closed, focus on the different parts of your body. First, on your feet. Feel where there might be some tension that you're not used to. We all are feeling different tensions. Focusing on our legs, moving up our body, our hips. Every few breaths, refocusing on the breath coming in and out of your nostrils. Feel where that breath is coming as it passes through. Think about how important the gift of respiration is, of breath, especially in this time when so many people's breaths are compromised, that we have the gift of breath, of spirit, of soul. Move your focus up your body into your torso, your shoulders, your neck. Finally, into your head, where I'm certain there is a place where you can feel tension. Is it your jaw? Move your jaw around. Relax your forehead. Feel your neck. Roll your head back and forth and feel that breath going in and out of your nostrils. Sitting quietly, see in your mind's eye your breath flowing gently in and out of your body. If your attention is wandering at all, it will. Let go of whatever that is. It is fleeting. Focus back on your breath inside of your body. Don't make any effort to change your breathing. Just notice it. Your body knows exactly how much air it needs. That in itself is a miracle. We take it for granted. feel the slight breaks between your breath. Now as you inhale, I want you to count slowly. Inhale, counting silently to yourself 1. And then as you exhale, count silently 1. And we're going to do that, counting each inhalation and exhalation up to the number 10. And take your time. Be slow with yourself. Notice how quiet your body feels wherever you are, whatever space you're in. Feel the relaxation of your body as the breath comes in and out of your lungs. I like to focus on the words of the Shema as I am meditating very slowly inside as my breath is entering nostrils and leaving my body through my nostrils. Think of the words Shema, Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. And with that feeling of knowing that there are people all over learning with us, all over this country, all over the world, we take another 90 seconds, and I will stop you at the end of that. Give yourself 90 seconds of silence and just noticing the breath. Now I want you to slowly keep focusing on your breath. Thinking about this time and this space that you're in, this holy time and space. Reflecting on the gift of our breath, of our body, being safe and sound even in our intense vulnerability in these moments. You can feel free to open your eyes. Come back to our breath. Come back to a place where we can open our eyes and join our group once again.
Folks, feel free to come out slowly. I don't know about all of you, but I realize that I haven't done that, just stop for 5 minutes for a couple of days. So Sydney, thank you so much. That was really helpful to me and so sweet to be with you and Yoshi again this week. This has been something I've been looking forward to all week. This is something that just feels different, transcending our continent and even I see to Berlin. So welcome to those of you who are zooming in from Europe. We appreciate you and feel free to invite anyone as we continue to build this virtual community. You know, I want to make sure that we keep on calling this the Book of Life project. And the Book of Life is, for many of us, sort of a faraway metaphor because it happens at Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is not going to happen for another 6 months. And it's a metaphor that many of us, when we were kids, scared the living daylights out of us. Like, sort of imagine this old man with a beard keeping a list of everything I did that was naughty and nice, mixed in well with my friends celebrating Christmas. And so the whole metaphor can be overwhelming, but if we look at it as our book of life, how it is that we live, how it is that we think of ourselves and judge ourselves and our interactions and our connections and our values, it becomes a lot more palatable. So it stops being about being judged and a lot more about how it is that we live and how it is that we want to live. So what does that have to do with April? Yoshi said in the beginning that Pesach, which is coming in 2 weeks, if you believe it or not, I've actually had Orthodox colleagues who have emailed me and said, can we halachically, by way of Jewish law, cancel Passover? So the answer is no, we can't. We can't cancel Passover. People have celebrated Passover in all kinds of circumstances, and we need renewal even if we can't be outside right now. So Passover, as Yoshi pointed out, is in the month of Nisan, which is 6 months away from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but is considered by the rabbis as also a Jewish New Year. Why a New Year? Because it reflects back to the time that we became a people, that we became redeemed, that we became freed. And so as we celebrate this today, this new month, this new year, we wanted to take an opportunity to journal a little bit. So if you have an opportunity to grab a pen and some paper, instead of just talking at you and reading a text, we want to open up the text of your spirits, of your souls. And the first question I want to give you by way of preamble is to say that, you know, the problem with Egypt for our ancestors is that it was bad enough that they were enslaved for 400 years, but they got used to it. They got habituated to the darkness. They started to think that that darkness was the only way to live because that's what they were used to. That's what they normalized. And I worry sometimes as we travel through this time that we habituate the darkness that we feel. So I want to start as a first question by acknowledging the fact that a lot of us are experiencing different ways of darkness. And if you could write down 3 different ways that you experience darkness during this time, I want to sort of put that out there first, just 3 ways that you feel like you're experiencing darkness because of what is going on in the cycle of your day. So you see it here on the screen. So if you forget the question, the official question is, what pieces of darkness are you experiencing currently in the cycle of your days? So take 3 minutes, which will be more time than you think, to write down your thoughts. And then we're going to actually see in between if people are willing to share some of what it is that they're feeling. What pieces of darkness are you experiencing currently in the cycle of your days? Just about another minute, and then if you want to start listing some of these in the chat, that would be great. Some of you have already started to do that. So Yoshi, if you could take the question down just so we could take a look at everyone. I'm just going to share some of what's in the chat, and if others want to then raise their hand and say anything to all of us, we can. So Sid talks about losing touch with time and feeling as if feeling it as darkness and light at the same time. And I get that. There are parts of the fact that we lose touch with time that we've always needed, and then it feels completely disconcerting. The underlying anxiety that I shared, that I know I feel, that my kids feel, that my wife feels, but I can't actually identify it. I want so badly to name it, and I can't always do that. Someone else talks about separation from her parents who are at high risk, and any of us who have parents in that category understand that. Linda from out here worries about shortness of breath, about our actual ability to breathe, and just the fear of getting sick and the people she loves getting sick. So much is unknown, that there is darkness in the not knowing. I just spoke to a bunch of therapists this morning for a panel that said exactly that. The unknown is always so scary. Loss of purpose and isolation, thinking we might be a carrier, eating meals alone. It's such a hard, for those people who are living literally alone, there's so much more alone time. Karen says she feels guilty that she's missing the extras of life. I don't have the foods I enjoy. I'm missing the person who makes my coffee. I don't feel quite as resilient as we thought. So much judgment we have of ourselves. We should be better. We should be stronger. Worry for our children, worry for our world, our leadership. So many have talked about where their honor and courage is. Feeling like someone we love might die, not knowing when we're actually going to see our family again. Again, concern about leadership, not being able to be with your parents, especially on your dad's birthday, on all of our milestones. This new way of life is invading the dreams that we've had. What happened to all those things we planned to do, and suddenly, that Yiddish phrase, we plan and God laughs. Honestly, I feel like I have survived so much already, in many ways worse situations. The darkness now is a lack of light from children's laughter at the Early Childhood Center. This person is a teacher here. Janicia says she's lost touch with time. She wanted to pick up a challah Shabbat from the bakery, but they were already sold out at 11 o'clock this morning, and that's obviously on the East Coast here on Thursday. So I wanted to make the day different, but no challah. My friend wanted to do the J&F challah bake, but there's no yeast in the store. Even though I'm old, I feel I have just begun to appreciate the sweetness of life. So why do I say all this stuff out loud? Because I believe, and the tradition believes, that saying hard things out loud somehow actually relieve the burden. And I want to say that again. There's something so counterintuitive to that. You'd say, no, push away the darkness. But before we start to understand what brings light into our life, we have to be able to say so openly and so beautifully and so transparently, the way so many of you have, to actually say it out loud. Yoshi, if you could unmute Lori Ackerman, who's raising her hand to say something. Lori, can you speak?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, please.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me in this group. It's very hard for me to be separated from my soon to be 25-year-old daughter, and knowing that I probably won't get to celebrate that with her. And I am very much living alone here in my home. I feel blessed that I have a roof over my head, but it's very difficult. She's my daughter's my lifeline at the moment.
Thank you for saying that out loud. And so many people that we count on for our touch points, our lifelines, the ones who give us oxygen, we're trying to figure out new ways to connect to them. So let's just sit for a moment. I don't want to make you more miserable, but I do believe what I said. Let's just sit for a moment with those things that make us feel dark and feel anxious and feel scared. And now that we've named them, let's just affirm them for a moment. Thank you. Yoshi wrote something beautiful to his congregation, to his members of Stephen Wise Way here, about silver linings. And I'm not going to take too much time to read all of it. But the point is that he asked his congregation, and I'm going to ask you, what is it that does give you light in your life? And it might be something right now that you're able to find light in, or it could be something from your past that filled you with so much light that just referring to it can bring light to today. There's a teaching actually from Yoshi's great-great-great-grandfather, I want to say, that he taught me years ago. It talks about the difference between sason and simcha. I may get this wrong, Yoshi, but simcha is an everyday happiness. It's an ice cream cone. You could have it, you have joy, it goes away. Sason is something that's so indelibly joyful that all you have to do is refer back to it, and it can make you have simcha today. It can make you have happiness today. So what is it that brings light into your life now? But also, what is it in your life that's giving you light that you can insert into the now? So Yoshi put the question up. It's probably not, I probably said it better now than I did write it. I think this is still the first one. Yeah. So what are the things, the one before this? Yeah, here it is. What roadmap are you constructing each day so that you're making sure to inject light into each day? Again, let's take a couple of minutes. We'll just take 2 this time, and feel free to put them on the side chat. It's been really wonderful to read everything you're writing. These are great so far, and some of them are making me laugh hard also. Keep on coming. It's about another 30 seconds. Okay, as Yoshi takes down the question, all the research that's been done in the last 5 or 10 years on habit, and there's a great book actually by Charles Duhigg, it's a yellow cover, D-U-H-I-G-G, we'll put it on the screen in a moment, talks about the fact that we feel enslaved to our habits. We think that they are our destiny, but they actually, the science shows that we can intentionally change them. So when we get caught up in elongated darkness, which is what some of us feel like. I took my dog out the other night and I thought, God, when will this end? And I got so, I got so down about it. I felt like this, sort of never ending cloud of darkness. And then I remembered the teaching from Duhigg's book is that we have to work to rehabituate how we're feeling. And in this sense, we have to consciously say, here are things that make me happier. Here are things that make me positive. Here are things that I know if I do again, they'll make me happy as they did in the days of old. And let me share some of those with you. Linda Levi talks about, she's a beautiful artist, that she feels lucky to be able to sit and still paint. Julie says, I'm focusing on what I have to do, and also blessed for the fact that I have a community, that I have a roof over my head, and I'd rather focus on light. Yarn Girl, who I don't know who that is, but I love the name. Having my children home and making art and cooking. I want to say a word about those of us who do have kids home. I wrote that I think back to meeting my wife. I got married, as my 2 friends here know, later on in life. So meeting her was a really redemptive moment and gives me light every time I think about it. Linda also says, I make a schedule every day to create a sense of normalcy. Therapists have been saying, take each day as a 24-hour set. Don't worry about next Wednesday. Deal with today, Thursday, and how you're going to get through hour by hour. Ruth talks about at least staying in contact with family and friends. Someone else is a painter. Janicia talks about taking long walks every day, trying to go only with one person so I have real quality time. That's much easier. This is really interesting. Much easier to arrange these walks now than ever before. So that's a good thing. Spending time with people we didn't realize. Alan, you're the one who made me laugh really hard. He writes, taking a shower. I've skipped a few days and realized how important that is to my normal routine. I resemble that remark, Alan, and my daughter thinks this is a contest. She's gone 11 days without a shower and it's really disgusting. So we are trying to figure that out. Amy, you're FaceTiming with friends and family. Susan is looking at old and newer pictures and having coffee with friends. A lot of us are having these cocktail hours and coffee over Zoom. I'm thankful to be in the country and wake up to birds, nice walks. I'm studying and connecting with people each day and cooking and baking. Yum, send some of that virtually to us. My friend Bruce Fine talks about the beautiful spring day that we do have on the East Coast today. Their little dog, a martini, the Zoom meetings, reaching out to friends. Ethel staying in the moment and not worrying about tomorrow. Audrey, FaceTiming with your grandchildren. Rabbi Perlman, Karen, I get dressed and put on a piece of jewelry that is special and nostalgic. I know a couple of ones that you should be wearing. Lori, good to hear from you again. You cherish that you've been a member of good standing. Yoshi, hear that? She's in good standing at the Stephen Wise Synagogue for 45 years. And she's grateful that she just celebrated a 2.5 milestone of surviving a heart attack. Keep on living, Lori. That's beautiful to hear. Josh says laughing with his family and making TikToks with his daughters. Yes, next week, Yoshi, Sydney, and I will have a TikTok for all of you to see. Grateful to have safe and peaceful home, being healthy, making art. Alan Brian Dell, who teaches Musar, means Jewish character traits, says a little bit of generosity, compassion, gratitude, and love. Walking in nature. Movie toilet paper jokes. Okay, you'll have to share some of those. Cooking, experiencing spring, lots of creativity. I'm so happy to be able to take my mountain class, more cooking. God, this is so many. So I'm just gonna, hello, Jennifer Frost. Good to see you. Online yoga, Nightcap Friends. That is a cantor from Chicago and a very good friend. Sydney said, thank God. And finally, she put on her pants. You know, generally during high holidays, you may not know this, she leads with a robe, but she has no pants on underneath. So I just wanted to let everyone know that, because this is an appropriate venue to share that, isn't it? Okay, I'll get off of the stage now, which is what I've become, with one last piece. And I don't share lots of stuff on Facebook, but there was one piece that was shared with me by a congregant that I think is so important. And it's an imaginary conversation between a college student and his or her professor. And the professor says, no, the student says to the professor, so what was that pandemic like in 2020? And the professor says, it was horrible. People hoarded, there weren't enough ventilators, so many people died unnecessarily, they were really, really dark times. And the professor says to the student, what do you remember about it? And she says, you know, I was about 8 years old, and it's so interesting, I don't remember any of that. What I remember is spending a lot of time with my siblings and my parents, playing board games, watching my pastor every day on the computer, reflects for a second and then says to the professor, actually, those were the happiest weeks of my childhood. So I sort of get teary-eyed even thinking that how we frame this, and I don't mean the life and death part, that is the ultimate importance. That's why we're all letting the economy do what it's doing and we're separating, because we have to get physically well. But how we frame this and how we look back on this, which leads to the question, if you're gonna be able to talk, here it is. What 3 things are you doing during this crisis that your future self, so think ahead, your future self will be proud of looking back at this time? What 3 things are we doing during this crisis that your future self, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, God willing, we all live till 120, you pick a time that you'd be proud of looking back at this time. So take a couple of minutes and then please do share. Your responses are so beautiful. Your responses are coming in beautifully, so please continue. Just another 20 seconds or so. I'm going to hand off to Sid just by taking something beautiful from the person who I work probably closest with here, Rabbi Perlman's. The screen's running very quickly, saying, being present at least a few minutes a day and not wishing the time away, which I think, you know, when we're younger, we can't wait to the next birthday, the next holiday, the next trip. But as we get older, we realize that each day is our trip. Each day is our holiday. Each day is the thing to be celebrated. And doing that now is harder than ever, perhaps can cause a lot of pride for us as we progress through our days, especially these days. I'm not reading them all, but folks, keep your eye to the right. And Yoshi, are we able to copy these and send these out? Perfect. So he says yes. So I want everyone to get them. I just don't want to lose these last 20 minutes.
Hopefully everybody will also have a recording of this call, this class, so we can post the recording for later. Something went wrong last week, but we're all getting a little bit better with the technology. So hopefully it'll work for this week and you can share it with others. Sorry, Matthew, back to you.
No, beautiful. I just want to say the sharing is so extraordinary, which is why I want everyone to have it and put it sort of as their pieces of light around the room. Sid.
Thank you so much. We love to, of course, infuse a little bit of text for everybody to chew on, to digest, to bring with you for this next week. And so there's a text we've been studying. I'm going to have Yosh put up on the screen, which is a text from the Babylonian Talmud. And we're going to we got a lot of great feedback last week, and we're going to be, as we get feedback from all of you, we love it, and we're going to keep adapting this so that we can have this writing process and really focus on moving through Pesach, Passover, and thoughts of redemption. And 6 months, we don't know what the next 6 months will bring. None of us do, but we know that there will be Rosh Hashanah, and we will be together in some way as a community at that time. But between now and then, there's a lot of caretaking that we need to do. And some of those prompts, I think, resonate for each one of us about how do we make sense of taking care of ourselves in this altered reality. And so this text is from the Babylonian Talmud. And I love this text because it really is about time. And can we model ourselves after the divine, the Holy One, and what God does in the course of one day? And the reason I love this so much is because I'll just share that sometimes my days feel like they're 48 hours. Sometimes they feel like they're 2 hours. Some nights I sleep for 10 hours. Other nights I sleep for 2 hours. It seems like the days when I'm not having any meditative time, there's a lot of anxiety that permeates my night. So I love this text, and we're going to give you a chance to look at it and in small breakout groups in a moment, but I'm just going to read it to you. Rav Yehuda taught in the name of Rav, there are 12 hours in the day. During the first 3, the Holy One of Blessing sits and engages in Torah study, just like what we're doing. During the second 3 hours, God sits and judges the entire world. Once God sees that the world has rendered itself liable to destruction, and we can take a deep breath and actually feel that in our hearts and in our souls, God arises from the throne of judgment and sits on the throne of mercy. This is the idea that God has 2 thrones, and that God is actually in these hours moving from judgment. And we can all think about the ways that we have judged ourselves or judged others more harshly than we need to during this time, and moves to the throne of mercy, and the world is not destroyed. How much more mercy do we need to employ as a tool? During the third set of 3 hours, the Holy One of Blessing sits and feeds the entire world, from the horns of the wild oxen to the eggs of lice, from the largest to the smallest creatures. we think about just the tiny mitzvot that we can do. One of my congregants had challahs delivered, chalot delivered all over the city. And when the doorbell rang and there was a challah with my name on it last Friday night, I actually burst into tears thinking about what it means to feed one another at this time. During the 4th 3 hours, God sits and makes sport with the Leviathan, as it's stated, there is Leviathan whom you have formed to play with. The idea of, even in the midst of this, we could see people's writing, there is humor, there's toilet paper humor, there is love making, there is play. And that when we think about our 12 hours, if we're awake or asleep, can we model our time after God? And so we're going to have you break into small groups for just a few moments before we end our session and to share with one another. And so this is going to be the part where Yo Techmeister brings us into small groups. And I say, I used to love in Saturday Night Live, Linda Richmond, who did coffee talk, but we're going to do Talmud talk now. And I say, talk amongst yourself. It's God saying, take care of yourself, especially at these times. Go to a breakout session for 2 to 3 minutes. Ready, Yosh?
Okay, everybody, we should all be back from our breakout rooms. You don't need to see two of me. I turned my second video off. That was exciting. I hope that it worked for you in terms of the technology. And I hope that I can see everybody coming back in right now. Hold on.
Great job, Ralph.
Okay, let me just start over. We should all be back from our breakout rooms. I hope the technology worked for you. And if it didn't, you'll let us know. So for next time, we can learn from that. That was the first time that we did that. But part of what we were trying to allow for was for everybody to say a few words and to be heard, and maybe to connect with someone new from another part of the country, or maybe from right next door, but to realize that we're part of a beautiful community that's bigger and broader than all of us. We want to close with a prayer for healing. And of course, there's a Misha Berach L'Refuah, which many of us might be familiar with as part of our Friday night services or Shabbat morning services, or other parts of our day where we feel like we need to offer that blessing. But today I want to share something from the Psalms, which is a beautiful collection of 150 poems that are found in the Hebrew Bible. And the author, and their scholars say that there are many authors of the Psalms, but different Psalms focus on different things, and some of them come from a place of darkness, and some of them come from a place of a deep spiritual need and a deep spiritual hunger. One of my favorites is Psalm 121. What I love about the opening line, it begins in Hebrew, Shir lama'alot, esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. The first word, Shir lama'alot, means a song of ascents, or a poem of going up. And then it begins with this question, I raise my eyes to the mountains, where will my help come from? And then the answer comes in the next verse, Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. My help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. And what we know is that, of course, we can be God's partners in bringing help. We know that those of us who are able to donate blood, those of us who might have masks that we had purchased in California in the wake of the fires, or that we had at home, we can donate those to hospitals who desperately need them. We know that we can, despite our fears, very, very real fears about the state of our economy, we know that we can give something to support others who are more vulnerable than we are. These are ways that we can be God's partner. And so we don't have to look to the mountains for help. We can actually look to one another. So I thought we could conclude with those words, Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. And if you want to sing with me, you can. If you unmute yourself, it'll become a cacophony of craziness. So you can stay muted and just sing, and we can see each other singing. Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Thank you, everybody. I see some people in the chat put the names of loved ones that they're praying for. Thank you, Isla. Right back at you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll send you another follow-up email for everybody who registered for the class. And if you have any feedback for us, please share it. We'll plan on seeing you, God willing, next Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thank you to Rabbi Sidney Menz. Thank you to Rabbi Matthew Gewirtz. Thank you to our friend and partner in this, Mark Pincus, for helping inspire this conversation. And most importantly, thank you to each and every one of you for taking time, your precious time today, and spending it with this group. We wish you all health and well-being. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye-bye. Take good care.